Hi, I wanted to do this video sooner, but I was playing Hearts of Iron 4. I hope you can understand, trying to conquer the earth and stuff. So let's watch.
And welcome back to another video. I don't really know how I'm welcoming you back since you just got here. Maybe I'm welcoming you back to my channel, but how do I know you just arrived? For all I know, you could have been binge watching me for the last 4.5 hours. Oh well, at any rate, welcome back. As some of you know, I believe morality is ultimately subjective, but before we get into that, I'd just like to say something ironic and self-defeating like, let's watch some videos and criticize other people's subjective assessments of morality. If you're scratching your head right now like, what's going on? I don't understand what's happening. I have enacted a slightly modified version of my role in the 168th edition of the webcomic Red Panels. You'll notice that the artist represents my moobs particularly well, but he just couldn't quite capture accurately the pallor of my skin. Anyway, like all good comic book artists, his work doesn't stand on its own because that would be fucking passe. Instead, it's got 3 dense paragraphs of text to help you understand the message.
At least he tries to get the message through, but we will get to that later.
Why didn't Bill Watterson ever think of that, huh? So let's take a look at what Mr. Panel, I'll call him that since I don't know his real name, has written here.
It's curious that for the host of a podcast where they do nothing but offer criticism of the absurd views of other people, the Amazing Atheist believes the realm of morality to be subjective. Despite negating the value of his own critique, the show approaches its 300th episode. The basis for much of their reasoning, as was pointed out by show guest Milo Yiannopoulos, is their anecdotal experience and emotional responses to personal injustices.
First of all, if you're going to mention the Drunken Peasants, please do so by name. The Drunken Peasants and the Amazing Atheist are 2 entirely separate intellectual properties.
I agree, and I will treat it that way. I understand that sometimes man has to make money so he can, stop his morality or his perception of reality in order to, make the cash on the drunken peasants. I get it, bro. You need cash. I get it. It's the similar thing like the lot of people who were really secular or atheist really were in the Catholic Church like during the ages because they needed the cash, the easy life and the cash that goes from it. Or similarly, a lot of people enter weird political parties just in order to get to the post of power, not in that they particularly believe in the ideals or ideology, but I get it. I will from this point onward separate Drunken Peasant from the Amazing Atheist.
And you're conflating them both right out of the gate. Milo Yiannopoulos' criticism of us being too anecdotal was mainly levied at co-host Paul's ego.
Rightfully so.
Interestingly, in the wake of that episode, many viewers pointed out instances where Milo was being anecdotal, such as when he defended the priest who molested him as a young boy because it wasn't damaging in his experience.
Yeah, they were right to point that out because that's fucking retarded on so many levels. But how can you criticize that? I believe that morality is subjective. You have no way. Why do you criticize Milo's view on this? Because his view is, his moral view on this sexual abuse by the priesthood. I believe that you think that morality is subjective, and that on what basis can you criticize Milo's point of view if morality is subjective? But I could basically dismember you this way all the time, so I will just focus on the main points. By the way, it is important to call Milo out on his bullshit, even though I support him at some points. He needs a lot of thinking before he says something.
Milo also failed to realize that anecdotal evidence actually can be used to defeat absolutes. For instance, if someone says all X's support Y, all you need is one example of an X opposing Y to prove that statement false. But we're really distracting ourselves from the biggest problem with this opening paragraph, aside from the fact that it exists to speak for a comic strip that should be able to speak for itself. The biggest problem here is, what is the connection between subjective morality and anecdotal evidence?
They are both failures of logic. They are both failures of reason. The failure of the anecdotal evidence fallacy is that you see something and then you assume all the things are like that one thing. The failure of subjective morality is that by that standard, if you accept that morality is subjective, you therefore by your own morality silence yourself. You say there are those people that rape their children and they think it's moral, and I think that they are all in the right to do this because, it's subjective morality. There is nothing like reality or real people getting hurt or like actual property damage or psychic trauma or like damage to environment. Nothing like reality exists. It's all in our head. It's all our subjective morality. We can't decide what is good or what is bad. So we shouldn't even try. We shouldn't like discuss ideas or talk with one another, try to convince one another, try to like talk to the opposing view and find out why they are opposing you and why explain to them why are you opposing them. Nothing like that. We should all live in our little bubbles of our subjectivity and like abandon reason. Like in the old times in Ottoman Empire, they were the millets, the religious municipalities, and they all lived in their little bubbles. The Armenian Catholics, they had their rights, they had their tradition. They, for example, castrated young boys and sent them off as slaves. Then there were the Muslims, the Jews. The Jews circumcised their babies, the Muslims beat their wives, the Catholics on the northwestern side of the empire prayed to their god and burned the witches, and we should all like ignore one another because it's subjective. It's totally subjective. We can't like it's not like we are living in the same reality or on the same world or in the same galaxy. It's like, no, it's totally subjective. But let's go back to the point.
Now, I'm not saying that no such relationship exists or that no argument can be made there. I'm just saying that you haven't exactly connected the dots, Mr. Panel. Maybe you connect them in paragraph 2. Let's take a look.
Here's a suggestion, TJ. Perhaps morality ought to mirror the objectivity of another mental construction, mathematics. That is, it should be universalizable and internally consistent.
This is, I would like to say, the author of the comics' opinion. Morality should, I think, be universalizable and internally consistent if we are dealing with humans. If we are dealing with non-humans like animals, aliens, then there are different moral standards because of different natural laws that apply to those. Also, the different physiological and biological impulses, different brain structure, and also if I were a racist, then I would say that there is different types of morality for different types of people. Like, for example, Mr. Paul Zigo, said that there is something different between us, the good Western people, and then the Muslims. And that thing is that the Muslims are somehow not capable of learning from other people's shit. They need to go through the 30 years war or some equivalent of that between the Shia and the Sunni, and they need to go through the fallout of that kind of the post-Renaissance era because they are just inferior people. Or I'm just extrapolating. He didn't say that. He said that they need to gather the experience somehow through their life because like it's not how that they could like read or watch movies or talk with people. No. They are different breed of people, or at least mentally, so they need to gather that experience by their own. It's the same thing like the crazy Black Lives Matter demand that black people be everywhere because they have the divine right or somehow or like just like natural right to be repaired by being in control everywhere, even in places like Britain that actually ended slavery. Or like the Nazis, they also eh, did not apply morality in this way universally. They viewed the world as, three stratas of people. The basically the people who are unfit, the people who are fit only to labor, and the people who are fit to rule them all. And they wish to exterminate the unfit people because the Nazis viewed the Jews and gypsies and homosexuals and retarded people like they are somehow it is immoral of them to let them live because those kinds of people are somehow deficient and then they corrupt us all. Then they view the Slavs and the Eastern Slavs and the other kind like French people and all those types of people like slaves who are only to order to be ruled, and they can enjoy all those depravities like avant-garde music and avant-garde paintings, uh, all those things like alcohol and promiscuity, polygamy, and all those things because they are not like the good people, the good German people. They were in their mind just slaves and animals. And then there were the Aryan people, the good people. They need to be properly educated. They need to properly behave. Abstain from all the immoralities that are brought upon the good people by the Zionist plot. And that's the way the Nazis view the world. You see, I don't think that there is any argument against universal application of moral principle. The only arguments that I actually heard about it are either from a racist perspective, or from medical perspective. That one is actually, I don't think it's an exception because for different people with different capabilities, for example, if you suffer from illness like tumor in your head, or if you are born incapable mentally to develop certain age, I don't think that the same moral standard as for anyone else apply to you, and I don't think that they are in a way that is like offensive or hurt inducing. I think that there is a biological imperative for applying morality upon anyone. In case of animals and aliens, there would be exception and they require to be needed especially. But I think all humans are capable of acting in the moral way, so I don't view any objection to not applying morality on them all equally.
Lacking a logically sound reason to ascribe people, moral agents, any quantifiably greater magnitude of moral authority, they would not be differentiated. As such, it would be illogical and immoral for people to delegate moral agency to others that they do not innately possess. Example, it would not follow that even though I do not personally have the moral agency to stop you from smoking marijuana, I could somehow empower law enforcement to prevent you on my behalf. Taking this logic to its extreme, we'd arrive at the realization of libertarian anarchism.
This person is trying to be smart. I fucking hate it. What he's trying to say is, if there is no objective morality, then you can just judge anyone else. If someone else is a serial killer because he believes that God tells him to butcher those people, those street prostitutes, and then hang their arms from the street lamps, there is nothing that you can in the state that accepts that there is no objective morality do to that person, because what he does is what he thinks is moral because he believes in his own morality. The libertarian anarchism is it would be fucking clusterfuck. It would be chaos everywhere if people just agree that they are not interconnected.
Well, here's my suggestion, Mr. Panel. Perhaps language choices ought to be discernible and concepts under discussion ought to be judiciously assembled so as not to confound the assemblage with a glut of makeshift jargon designed primarily to advance a message of ideological purity as opposed to effectively communicating a point of contention. In essence, shut up your yammering face unless you're actually going to fucking say something!
I must say that TJ's bullshitting was better than the guy's bullshitting, but he avoided the point.
As far as I can tell, you think morality should be treated like math. Well, here's the problem. 2 + 2 = 4, and you can show that in a number of different ways. And it's true in almost any circumstance. The exceptions are things like 2 drops of water plus 2 drops of water may end up just being 1, albeit bigger, drop of water.
Making it difficult for people to focus on the right thing. That is a really good tactics by certain demagogues. I don't think here it is done by purpose, but I think it's done exceptionally well.
But 2 carrots and 2 carrots is 4 carrots. 2 tits and 2 tits is 4 tits. I'm talking about the birds, not the breasts. Don't be perverted. It's nice and clean, and it's easy and measurable. There is no morality arithmetic. Is it right or wrong to spank children?
It depends on the case.
Is it right or wrong to get an abortion?
It depends on the case.
Is it right or wrong to allow euthanasia?
It depends on the case.
Is it right or wrong to kill a murderer?
It depends on the case.
You may have your answers to these questions, and so may I, but there is no universal agreement, and there is no simple equation we can all defer to and say, well, we figured out the morality of abortion. We've looked at every single factor, and we know 100% where human life truly gains its sentience and deserves its own rights.
So, what shall we do about it? According to TJ, we shall just ignore the question. Just don't ask. Because if you ask, somehow you are the evil one. Because he will then later explain to you that if you have objective morality, then you are probably fucking Satan, or you just want to impose Islam on everyone. The way that we determine what things are right and what things are not is called scientific method. Someone says something, and then a lot of other people will look at it and try to figure out why it is bullshit, and he will then defend his statement, kind of like TJ does, but they actually need to react, or the person who makes the objection won.
You know, the funny thing about everyone who claims to have objective morality is that none of them can agree on what it is.
They can discuss between one another. The reason why most of the people who claim to have objective morality don't want to discuss with one another is because most of those people are religious. Therefore, their objective morality is based upon bullshit, so they don't want to discuss it with anything, they only want to spread it.
Oh, we found it! We found objective morality, you guys! There it was. It was behind the dildo chest the whole time. You know, things that are objectively true are genuinely not a source of much argument.
Kinda like, objectively true things like the fact that the dinosaurs once lived on this earth, the structure of the atom, the fact that not living things can create living things. This was a point of contention during the 19th century, that you can create anorganic molecules can create organic molecules. It was debated and discussed. There were many people who tried to prove that wrong. There were religious people who tried to stop the research in order to preserve the sanctity of life. There were a lot of opinions. The fact that something is easily distinguishable for you doesn't mean it was always easily distinguishable. At the beginning of, for example, mathematics, someone had to figure out that 2 + 2 is always 4. Someone had to figure out that, for example, if you multiply 4 times 2, it is the same as if you do 2 times 4. Someone had to figure all this out. Someone had to figure out how to do shit with 0. There were not a lot of people who could count it with 0 relatively late in the history of mankind. We have fucking treatises on mathematics or advanced equations that fucking 5 people can understand in the total world. It's not like mathematics is easy as you try to as you try to explain it. It's not that mathematics is this like simpleton subject that even though everyone can fucking understand it at a glance, there are mathematical experts who spend their entire life striving to prove one point or disprove another point in mathematics. Mathematics is extremely difficult to fucking even understand. I don't even understand most of the things that we did on high school, and I don't consider myself to be thick as fuck. Morality is extremely the same. There are some things that we can understand that are wrong, and then there is a fucking big area of things that we only can debate, and by this debate we figure out what is wrong and what is right, like like scientific method, in such that the ideas are put forward and then they are criticized, and if they can stand up to those criticisms, then they are probably correct until we can prove otherwise.
Now, there are exceptions, like evolution or climate change, where people deny science based on faith and fantasy, but for the most part, objective reality speaks for itself. 2 + 2 is objectively 4. Everyone
And person being flayed alive is person being flayed alive, no matter how you look at it.
comprehending what I'm saying in this video right now is objectively a human being, because no other life form that we know of is capable. If I chop off my balls and throw them in a blender, they are objectively gone forever. But whether or not it's right to get your baby circumcised...
Thank you for picking this easy. This is not like the low-hanging fruit that you picked for your enemies to dismember. This is just fucking potato out from the ground.
There's no objective answer to that.
Okay, let's think about it.
Only opinions, only different value systems in competition with one another.
It's not that like one of the value system is based upon things that cannot be proven that is right, and the other one is based upon the idea that people have value in themselves. It's not like the one opinion is based upon, I don't know, like someone probably on the shrooms getting visions from the beyond.
In fact, you can find objective moral people on both sides of the issue.
Yeah, and if they were to talk with one another honestly, if they really believe that there is objective morality, and if they were intellectually honest, they would arrive at the same solution.
It's objectively wrong to mutilate that poor baby.
Yeah, because it causes unnecessary pain to a person, and it is irreversible.
It's barbaric. Well, it's objectively wrong not to mutilate that baby. It's God's will.
Prove God's will.
Or it's tradition.
That is just not an argument. That is argument ad populum.
Or girls like them that way.
You can't know that. Plus, even if girls like them that way, then it is even still not the decision of the parents to make that decision.
Or this will help with disease.
That has been debunked. It's about 0.5% difference in a group that was particularly small and that is not especially prone to have those types of diseases, because it was only tested on young, very small babies.
Or whatever reasoning they give. Alright, now we're getting too verbose here. Let's just get to your...
I agree. If you are losing, then fucking abandon ship.
Final fucking paragraph. How about that?
As I suspect that you'd find the notion of true libertarianism to be too emotionally unsettling.
Because the notion of true libertarianism is just not from this epoch. It might have been a viable solution to statecraft in early medieval times, maybe, but just get with the time.
At least legitimize your absurd subjectivism by living up to it.
I agree. He should legitimize his absurd subjectivism by living up to it, and by not criticizing anyone who has any other moral code, because it is their morality and therefore they are doing what is right.
Liberal, I'm sure you believe there ought to be some monetary redistribution of an arbitrary percentage of people's income to benefit the poor. Instead of waiting for a socialist utopia to do it for you, live by your morals and redistribute the same percentage of your wealth today.
How the fuck did he arrive at this point? I do not understand. What does this have to do with anything? As a liberal, I am sure you believe that there ought to be some monetary distribution of an arbitrary percentage of people's income. This doesn't make sense. If you are a socialist, you believe in curving the income, so bending the bow so that the ends are closer. If you are a communist, you believe in a distribution. If you are a liberal, you don't fucking even consider state should ever interfere with economy. This fucking person doesn't know what liberalism is. Just fucking the Whigs were one of the founding forces behind neoliberalism and neoliberalist ideas. Liberalism has nothing to do with economy except from the state to abstain from economy at the most it can.
After all, it is important enough for you to compel others to do it. Surely it is important enough for you to compel yourself to do it before the law requires it.
Well, if you're asking me to give to charity, I already do. In fact, I would like to urge everyone watching this to help me reach the $200,000 goal on my Extraordinary People Daring to Actually Help Women campaign.
Yeah, you should really help that campaign. I think it's important to actually help people who are suffering from injustice and from bad circumstances. By the way, the fact that most of the people live in societies that are, the fact that what those women are being done to is considered moral, stopping girls from getting education in Islamic country is totally moral according to the Islamists, and also it is totally moral according to the Amazing Atheist, because he believes that morality is subjective and therefore the Islamists have full right to do as they please, because there is no way to stop there is no way to prove them otherwise, because morality is subjective.
Campaign, while Anita Sarkeesian was able to beat us to the $200,000 mark due to some big donors, we've shown her...
It was the guy who created Cards Against Humanity. Probably he's having, his home in his bed, shaking and pissing himself at the thought that he made something that actually brings joy to people.
That we care more about real women than she ever will. The link is down below. We've raised $120,000 and we've got $80,000 left to go. I give a good portion of my income to charity, but our country needs more than a simple infusion of capital in the lower ends of the economic strata. We need a revitalization of infrastructure, education, environmental protection, and several other key factors. I'm not going to get into a libertarian...
That is what you think, but how can you prove anything of it? It's just your opinion, and morality is subjective. If someone else says that what your country need is to get rid of the kikes, how can you prove him otherwise? It's moral. It is his moral goal. It is his moral imperative, and you have no way to disprove him. Morality is subjective. It does not matter that all the facts are on your side, because morality is subjective. You must always remember that morality is subjective.
Versus liberalism debate with you, especially since that is on no level a...
Liberalism versus libertarianism is it is the one thing. It is called liberalism, and the Americans can't just fucking accept that something, even from America, that is actually was feasible at one point in history.
Dressed in your stupid fucking comic, but I will say that the solutions that this country needs need to be on a massive scale. One person acting on their own isn't going to make the difference. We need to change the way we do things as a society.
And how are you going to persuade the society with no arguments? How are you going to do anything if you really believe in this kind of, I would call it socialism, generally, social democratic socialism? How can you justify it? How? Just how? With, I don't know, implying that it is moral to cure people instead of let them die slowly on the street. There can be another person who will walk up to you, who will say it is not better to cure people instead of let them dying on the street. They should just be put down because they failed in their life, and you disarmed yourself by your own idea that morality is subjective. You see the point? When you say morality is subjective, you disarm yourself from the discussion. It is totally idiotic to say morality is subjective. You can say that religion is subjective because it is not connected to reality at all, only in one way. Only religion influences reality. Reality influences your religious feeling. On the other way, morality should be influenced by the reality that you live in. If you live on another planet, then you cannot influence another people's morality. If you live here with us and share our problems and agree that we live in the same universe, then you can talk to us. But if you decide to live on fucking Pluto with the Martians who smoke weed every day, then you can stay there and talk with them about their subjective morality, because we in the real world cannot talk with you at all because you don't accept reality.
As a whole. If you want some objectively valid reason why we need to do that, I can't give you one. I don't think there's an objectively valid reason why this species even deserves to exist. Yet I'm glad we do so, and I hope we continue to do so. I'm the Amazing Atheist. Objective morality is bullshit. Peace the fuck out.
That was Amazing Atheist on objective morality and on the idea that our species has no particular worth at all. Let's contradict some old TJ with some young TJ. I think you are probably shocked. Yes, this is TJ. Yes, he was once a pretty handsome man.
So the other day I made a video response to a nice lady by the name of Dawn Hawkins who thinks that pornography is the root of all evil in the world.
And it is her moral opinion, and I think that morality is subjective. You think that morality is subjective. Therefore, it is okay.
She works for a little company called Morality in Media, so you know they're a bunch of evil fucks.
Because wait a minute, how can you pronounce that they are evil fucks if the morality is subjective? If you were working in that company with your morality as you possess it now, then you would be an evil fuck. If they are there doing what they are doing, then they are doing it with their morality, and their morality is not better or worse than your morality. Therefore, they are fully righteous persons if they are doing what they want to do and they consider it moral, and you are fully righteous in criticizing them, and there is no middle ground, or there is no one that is right, even though if there is scientific evidence that what they spew is total bullshit and what you say is truth, it is still indecisible because morality is subjective.
In my video, I told people to go to Morality in Media's contact page, and, well, I'll let you see what I said. Well, fuck, it's a real site. But hey, it has a real contact page. And you can contact these people. And you know what I want you to do? I don't want you to do what you probably want to do, which is send them porn, because that would be pretty funny. Don't do that. Because it's really not going to get our message across. What you really need to tell them is, you're not the moral arbiters of America.
How can you tell? They believe that they are the moral arbiters of America. So therefore, they are doing what the moral arbiters of America would do, and they are therefore just in doing so because it is their morality to impose their morality on other people, and if they do so, then they are acting fully moral in their own way. You understand why this type of thinking is a self-perpetuating bullshit trap, only this destined to ever catch you? If you ever criticize someone and then tell that morality is subjective, you will fail at every moment.
You don't get to impose your shitty, antiquated values on the rest of us.
Those are not shitty, antiquated values in their mind. In their mind, those are the values sent by God. And in their in their opinion, in their morality, they should therefore enforce those values sent by God on all that they can, because the God told them to do so, and it is therefore fully moral to do so. And if you are trying to stop them, then you are the immoral one. And then here you could, for example, counter argue that it is in your morality to stop them, because it is your moral imperative that they are not the defenders of morality, but it is in your morality that they are immoral and you are moral, and therefore you both are acting fully moral in this universe that fucking is just like bubbles of brains in a jar that never interact with one another, and they are always all permanently, eternally right on every single issue until end of the universe.
We don't give a fuck. If you don't like porn, don't watch it, don't buy it, don't support it, whatever. That's your right. It's a free market and that's your prerogative. But don't try to enforce your bullshit on us.
Why? It is fully moral for them to enforce their bullshit, quote-unquote bullshit, on everyone else, because they believe that they have to do so, and it is therefore their obligation to be a moral person to enforce their view on everyone else. If it is your view that they should not, you know what I mean. Basically, this is a self-defeating circle.
We don't agree with you. Get over it. So what I was basically calling for was the civil assertion of our position that these people do not get to dictate morality to the rest of us.
Says the guy who recently claimed that morality is subjective, now wishes to somehow enforce subjectivity of morality upon other people. How can you exactly fucking do so? How can you fucking... This doesn't make any sense.
What was their response? They took their website down entirely and replaced it with this.
Morality in media has been taken offline to prevent illegal access by those who think pornography is harmless. Pornography is not harmless, and no matter how much you want porn to be normal, it isn't. Your IP address is and has been recorded.
So first of all, brilliant refutation of our argument, morality in media.
Yeah, it is. It actually is. In your own worldview, it is a perfectly reasonable refutation of all your arguments. We think it is not, and we are morally obliged to think it is not, therefore it is not, and you cannot tell us anything else because it is moral of us to do this. Basically, what I have been trying to tell you now is the fact that your own argument defeats you. This is self-eating snake. It cannot be won by anyone. Either you accept that you are in a real world, or you can join those people who claim that nothing is real, nothing can be ever achieved, be known, or be felt. Those aren't even like nihilists. There are a specific group of people in philosophy who believe that nothing has a meaning. There is no science behind nothing. You can understand nothing. You can understand society, you can understand the real world, you can understand yourself. Nothing can be understood. Those are the people who would agree with you that there is no objective morality. The other group of people, like the people that actually like need to live day by day in the real world, not in some fucking fantasy land, must agree on the idea of objective morality. The problem is that if you assert that there is no objective morality, then you defeat your... I fucking said it so many times. The problem is that this is just fucking bullshit. No one can claim that there is only subjective morality and then make any judgment upon anyone. And if you don't make any judgments, and you think, haha, I'm so clever. I claim that I have no opinions on other people's doing, and then I don't voice any opinions. Yeah, if you just fucking killed yourself, you would have done a much better service to humanity than be enabler of all the genocides and all the terrible shit that happens every day because of people who don't voice their judgment. Everyone must constantly voice their judgment and then be then be argumenting with other people who have different judgment in order to arrive at the common or at the rational judgment. The way how we determine objective morality is through Socratic means, through Socratic dialogue, and to trying to persuade other people that what we think is right and what they think is wrong, and other way around. That way, when we met in argumentation, we can finally figure out where the truth lies, and we can both work one step closer to the objective morality that we trying to find. It is not that we have found it. It is constant process of trying to find it. And how do I know how that it worked? It fucking works all the time. We arrived from places where it was fucking common to burn people alive for disagreeing with you into place where slavery is outlawed. Now in the West, rape is almost non-existent in comparison with the rest of the world. There are almost no child prostitution, no enforced marriages. We have achieved the society that is quite the moral one, not through, and it was done not through, accepting that those other people do this and I shouldn't do this. By that standard, we would never move fucking anywhere because we would be all trapped in fucking Stone Age because no one would ever try to talk with someone else over anything and there would be nothing because only through talking with one another we can arrive at the foundation of the fact that there are common reality that we share. This is so tiring. I could just throw this so many times. I think that I've already told everything that need to be said. So, bye.